Welcome back to the Communication Mastery podcast with me, Mark Burlinson. In this season in 2026, we're going to spend some time looking back and replaying some of the episodes that some of you have asked about in your comments. And in between those, I'm going to be back with little snippets each week of helpful information that you can put into practice in your business, in your life, to help you grow your communication mastery. This week, I want to talk about true self awareness. If you're a regular listener to the podcast, and I hope you are, you know we talk a great deal about self awareness, don't we? Because I can't adapt to others until I understand myself more clearly. And then the understanding of myself helps me to see where I need to adapt to be able to connect more effectively with other people. But what I find again and again is that our self awareness can sometimes be um, distorted, or there can be a gap between what I think is true and what is really true. And what I find with the communication profile is that it's not all the time, but sometimes someone will answer the questions and therefore get results that are according to what I think should be true of me rather than what's really true of me most of the time. And so I'm answering how I think I should answer versus answering it by what I really feel or what I really think. And in some cases, that's to do with a difference between the way we operate at work and the way we operate at home. I often come across folks who have what I might call a different profile between a work profile and a home profile. It may be that at work you're much more about strategy and the shaper language is a strong one. But when you're at home, maybe it's much more an emotive level. You're much more outgoing with people and all about enthusiasm and encouragement, that kind of thing, with the influencer leading and the shaper coming later, those kinds of things. Or it may be that you're much more of a doer at work, where you've got to get things done and that's the nature of your job, whereas at home you tend to be much more of a contemplator and you like your space and you like to have time to think and be inquisitive. Um, that's not necessarily a bad thing, provided you understand what's going on at work and at home. Um, Sometimes, though, that whole issue of answering how I think I should answer is more rooted in maybe a low self esteem or a lack of security in my role. And that can be a challenge because you're not working then with accurate feedback of how your profile is looking. I was just talking with somebody this past week, in fact, who took their profile again because they once they looked at the results they had, they realized that a lot of the time they're like, yeah, I really want to be like that. But they're not. And so they got a slightly distorted view of themselves. And so to take the profile again was a helpful thing. And we were able to discuss what this new, fresh information added to their understanding of how they fitted into the organization, how they operated in their management role, those kinds of things. And sometimes the issue of not having a true self awareness is actually more related, or it arises from a misalignment in the team. So not having the right people in the right roles or the right responsibilities. So in all of those cases, it's important that we identify if that's happening, if we've made that misstep, if you like, because self-awareness is always going to be the starting point for communication, and so I've got to get the starting point right. Uh, it's a little bit like, I use this analogy a lot, don't I? But it's like if you've got a GPS in your car and you want to go somewhere, but actually it thinks you're somewhere else. Maybe your phone has got some privacy setting and it thinks you're in, I don't know, New York somewhere, and actually you're not. You're in Georgia. Well, and then the route to where you want to go is always going to be wrong because you're starting from the wrong starting point. And it's the same way with communication. Until I understand myself more clearly and more fully, I can't begin to adapt accurately and effectively to the way other people need me to communicate with them. So there's two parts to solving that. And one I've already alluded to, and I talked about the person I was talking to this past week. But the first step is to take the profile again and to answer it with my focus in the right place. So if we're looking to resolve an issue where home profile, work profile is the issue, I want to answer, assuming I'm doing this at work, I want to answer with my workplace in mind rather than my home setting or my social life or whatever. And so when I retake the profile with my work relationships and with my work roles and responsibilities in clear focus, then my answers are going to better reflect how I communicate in the workplace and in the role that I have. Or it may be that I need to take the profile again with a broader focus on what is really true for me rather than what I hope would be true for me. And that can make a difference as well. So once I've taken the profile again, then I can put the two profiles side by side. If I've understood what was the issue from the first profile, I can then look at the second profile with the clearer focus and see what has changed, because that's going to give me insight to what was either disguised or overemphasized in the first result versus what the truth is in the second. And that's a very helpful insight for any of us at any point. Um, it's worth just hitting pause at this point and saying that there are also changes in our profiles over time, particularly when our circumstances change. And that's another way of making sure that my self-awareness is a true picture of who I am and where I'm at. If you've had a major change in your life, or maybe a change of role at work, it's worth taking the profile again when you're settled into that new setting, because it will be different. I've had seasons in my own life where different languages within my profile, different communication styles have either risen or fallen in my profile according to what was being required of me or what was going on in my life in a wider picture, those kinds of things. And again, if you can see it, then you can manage it and you can allow for it. But if you haven't recognized it, then you're at a disadvantage. Anyway, back to getting true self-awareness. If I've had a profile that really wasn't a true reflection of me, where I'd answered where I thought the way I thought I should answer. Um, Once I've taken that second profile, that new profile that I feel is more accurate, and again, when I do this with people, they say, "Oh yeah, this fits me much better." Then what I need to do is to review that with people who know me well. And so in a work setting, that would be my colleagues, maybe my line manager or those that I oversee, so that you can get their input as well. Say, this is the profile that I've got from taking my questions again. And how does that seem to you? Does that seem to be a greater reflection, a better reflection of how you see me and how I operate in this setting? Because as you get their input, that will help you to clarify further what it is that you've been able to see by taking the profile again. Sometimes there's an issue with the communication indicators in the full profile. We don't just have the 7 communication styles, but we have a number of communication indicators as well. And sometimes those can shift when I'm taking the profile a second time with a clearer focus. And that helps me to see what was it that mattered. I mentioned earlier the person I was speaking to just last week about their second profile, their retaken profile. And one of the things that stood out to us as we looked at it was that their projective level, that's the communication indicator that measures how important it is to me, what other people think of me and how other people see me. For some of us, it's not that important how other people see me. For some of us, it is important. Again, there's no right or wrong about that, but understanding what's happening in my own specific profile is very helpful. And in this particular case, this person had a fairly high projective level. In other words, it was important to them how others perceived them. And that was influencing how they'd answered in the first profile. When they were given permission to answer truthfully, the projective level stayed high, but the answer of the communication styles, the blend of those 7, changed in a way that they felt really reflected them much more clearly. And it was very interesting to see which of the seven styles dropped further in the profile and which came higher. In this particular case, this gentleman had a very low range. He was very flexible between the many different communication styles. There was just one that was a little weaker for him. And so that meant that he had learning from that in order to be able to be an effective manager of others, as well as an effective member of the leadership team of that particular business. And that gave him great insight for his situation and for his setting, because it was now a true picture, a true self-awareness of where he was coming from, where he was starting from. His previous profile had not given him that because of his care for what others thought of him and what others saw in him. He was answering how he thought he should answer rather than what was true deep inside of him as his own self-awareness. And I mentioned this earlier, but I want to reinforce it, that our true self-awareness is never a fixed thing. It's something we need to keep reviewing even day by day, because the circumstances that we're in change. It doesn't really change your profile in terms of the communication styles, but it does affect how you draw those seven styles together in the setting. We're different under pressure than we are when things are going smoothly, aren't we? Different languages come to the fore in different settings in that way. And we maybe communicate one way when we're relaxed and a completely different way when the stakes are high. That's another area where we need to be aware of what's going on in me and how is that coming out of me, and how does that affect the way I interact with the people that I'm in team with or in relationship with. And it's important I also stress that we mustn't let self-awareness grow into self-focus. I need to be aware of what's going on with me, but the key always in communication is how do I take that awareness and apply it to adaptability, apply it to what do those around me need in order for us to work together. Communication is always about community and not just about me. It's a danger that I address again and again with clients, that it's not about this is the way I'm wired and everyone has to get over it. It's more about how do I understand all seven of those styles that I have in my profile, that I can use all seven in a way that is beneficial to those around me and to the cause or the vision or the strategy that we're executing together. If I can balance self-awareness with that adaptability, then that's going to guard against what you might call toxic individuality. We don't want to become individuals who have to be accepted in one way. We want to be individuals who can learn to work together and draw the strengths out of each other so that the team becomes more effective. And the beauty of understanding all seven styles is that I can grow my self-awareness first, but then I can also hold fruitful team meetings in my head to bring out whichever style is helpful in a particular setting or a specific situation. And that's called adaptability, and it only happens when I have that true self-awareness. So if you've taken your profile, take another look at it and say, does this feel like it really fits me now, today? Because if it doesn't, it's worth retaking it. If you want to retake your profile, go to my website at markburlinson.com, send me a message. Let's take a look, because very often there are special offers around that will give you a discount even on retaking that profile. And then we can schedule a time to chat about what we see from the differences between the first time and now. What has grown? What has changed? What can you learn about yourself? I want to see every one of my listeners and viewers have a deeper sense of true self-awareness, because communication really depends on me knowing how I'm wired and then how I interact with other people. So I hope that helps you to grow your true self-awareness and also to build your adaptability. Let's put it into practice this week and let me know how it goes. Send me a message at my website. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It would mean a lot to me if you'd rate and review the podcast so it helps more listeners to find us. But also, would you give me your feedback on things you'd like to hear about in future episodes? And remember to share the episode with a friend if you see something that would benefit them as well. You can reach me with feedback through my website at markburlinson.com. Just click on the contact button and send me a message. I respond to everyone personally, and I really want to hear from you. So thank you again for listening, sharing, reviewing, and giving me your feedback.